Hi, Essi. Thank you for joining One Woman's Journey today. It's lovely to have you with us. I'm really pleased that you're here. And I'm really just going to be sort of handing over to you today about your own journey. And if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey, and we'll take it from there if you like. Okay?
Okay.
Great.
Okay. First, I want to say hi, Rachel, and it's lovely to see you. And
Oh,
I'm so glad that we were able to connect.
yeah.
Um, so, my name is Essi. I live in Florida. I'm married. I have a couple of grown children that are out working in LA
Mm.
and San Francisco. And I've come across this understanding about 5 years ago. But I'm going to take you back a little bit so you can get a little bit of the history of what happened to me.
Mm.
So I was born, my mother got pregnant with me during the revolution in Cuba. And she was in her late 30s and got pregnant, accidentally. I have a 10 and 12-year-old brother, a 10 brother and sister that are 10 and 12 years older than me.
All right. Okay.
And so yeah, so she got pregnant during a really difficult time. And when I was a child, she would tell me that she had gone to get an abortion a couple of times during pregnancy. And of course, as an adult, I understood that it was really a difficult time to have a child. But as a child, I always had interpreted that as like I really wasn't wanted.
Mm.
And so we were able to get to the United States when I was 2 years old. And it was very difficult for my parents. My father pretty much fell apart. He had like a nervous breakdown and then was diagnosed with mental illness.
Mm.
And my mother was, afraid in a new country. She had a 2 year old, a 12-year-old, and a 14-year-old, didn't
Mm.
know the language, and was just trying to survive.
Wow.
So you can imagine
Mm.
that my childhood was in a very dysfunctional kind of environment where people were just really trying to survive. We lost everything in Cuba, came here with nothing,
Wow.
and we had to start over. So as a result of that, looking back, I grew up a very anxious, shy, never felt good enough. Um, I wasn't encouraged to speak my mind, kept everything inside, and held on to a lot of my parents, especially my mother. My dad was pretty much sedated for the first 15 years of my life.
Wow.
So it was really my mom that I was closest to. And she was afraid and then looking back I could see there was a lot of anger because of her situation. And I kind of took that on. I was the last child to stay in the home with them. My brother and sister left me because they went on with their lives. And I picked up a lot of that pain. And so I was pretty much kind of their caregiver as I got older because they didn't know the language. And so I kind of took care of them from a very young age. And, I went to therapy and I would sit in front of a therapist and they would say, tell me about your parents. And I would just start bawling,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
like all of that pain was in me. And not surprisingly, I put myself through college and I was like, in survival mode. Like I had to take
Mm.
care of myself. I didn't have like a safety net. So I put myself through college and I got a good job and I was living independently. But in my 30s, I just had a complete burnout. And I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And then after that, I was diagnosed, with migraines and interstitial cystitis, which was horrible, illness and irritable bowel syndrome, and then, of course, anxiety and depression. And
Mm.
this went on for many, many years of just one thing after another. And I just didn't understand, like, what happened. I kept thinking, like, what happened to me? Like, why is this all happening to me? Like,
Mm.
this is,
Mm.
there was something always inside of me that felt like this is not me, like, this
Mm.
isn't me. And then the worst of it, which I've never spoken about, honestly, I think I was embarrassed to speak about it, but it was really the worst of my medical conditions. And there are a lot of women out there suffering with this. And it was called vulvodynia. So it's like a neuropathy, except neuropathy occurs in your private area. And so pretty much I would wake up every day and it would feel like someone was taking a blowtorch and putting it up my private area. And that was like the lowest of all the conditions that I went through. And really at that point I had 2 small children that I was trying to raise. And I literally would lie in bed and just be in horrific pain all the time from this condition. And I didn't want to live anymore. It was just too unbearable at that point in my life. I mean, that's how low it got. I even really kind of planned my own suicide. And if it wasn't for the love, the deep love that I had for my children, I always say my children saved my life. And I got lucky enough that somebody referred me to like a trauma doctor. And he told me to read a book called Healing Back Pain by John Sarno. And that was the first time that I got a glimpse of the connection of the brain and the body, right? So, of course, when we're not okay with our brain, a lot of chemicals get released, like cortisol and adrenaline and all of that, and it affects our body. And so it was like the first little awakening that I had of what was really going on with me, you know? And so one thing led to another, and I became like a seeker. I went on a self-help, looking for all the books to help myself because I really just wanted to be a good mother. That's all I could think about. I just wanted to be a good mother and a good wife to my kids and my husband. You know, and so one thing led to another, and I read all these books and found Hay House, and then found Michael Neal's book, The Inside Out Revolution. And when I read that book, I knew I had come across something really, really important. And so I read it like 4 times. Because I knew there was something there. I knew that I needed to understand what it was and that I didn't need to look for anything else anymore. That's what it felt like to me. Like I had found what I was looking for. And so I did a couple of programs with Michael, and one thing led to another. And then I found other people in the principals community, and it's led me to where I am today. Now, I came across this understanding about 5 years ago, and it's completely changed everything in my life. You wouldn't know it from the outside because a lot of times people didn't even know I was going through what I was going through. You couldn't see it from outside, but from the inside, like so many things have fallen away, including my conditions. So some of the important things, was that I stopped identifying with all of those diagnoses and labels. And that really, really made a huge difference. I no longer saw myself as a person that had any of those things I mentioned before. And then after having come across the principles, I was able to be brave enough to get off a lot of medication for those conditions. So it's been quite a journey from then until now. And of course, I've seen even so much more every year as that's gone by. I just see more and more and more, even recently. Yeah. And it always kind of boils down to, so for what I saw, now looking back, my thinking, my focus when I was diagnosed was always on, how am I going to get rid of this? I
Mm.
did not accept even the first diagnosis. I was in resistance to all of it.
Mm.
So my focus and my thinking was, how am I going to fix this? You know, so I'd run from one doctor to another doctor to Googling to, like, my whole life was focused on that.
Yeah.
And that focusing on the very thing I didn't want
Mm.
was creating it bigger and bigger. And it just caused more and more, like, problems. And it was like a whole, like, vicious cycle of wanting to fix it, not accepting it, you know, and then getting all caught up in the thinking around it. And
Mm.
that very thinking would then cause the next thing. And
Mm.
the thinking about it would
Mm.
cause the next thing, you know? And so innocently, because I didn't understand any of it, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Cindy Banks says all we need is love and understanding,
Yeah.
you know? And understanding is a crucial part in healing, because when we understand how we work, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like you're going to have, like, a beautiful life every day of your life, and things aren't going to happen in your life.
Mhm.
I mean, still things happen, you know, and we go up and down and we feel all kinds of things, and that's okay. That's part of the human condition. But
Mm.
when we understand it, that is like the secret, I feel, you
Yeah.
know. And I also feel like I've been so blessed to even have come across this,
Yeah.
because I can't even imagine what or how my life would have ended up
Mm.
if I had not come across this understanding.
Mm. Yeah. So it, it sounds like, there was a lot going on in your world and your mind, both growing up and with several diagnoses, and you had a lot of thinking about why that was, and, decided, I guess, beliefs about yourself. I mean, what were your sort of arching beliefs, do you think, at that time?
Well, I definitely believed that I was not good enough, that I wasn't
Mm.
pretty enough, that I wasn't thin enough, that I didn't have, you know, smart enough to have a voice to assert my
Mm.
feelings. And, you know, I was brought up to not speak my mind. So I
Mm.
kept everything inside. It was like poisoning myself, you know?
Yeah.
Um, for sure. And then I carried everybody else's pain too, because I wanted my parents to be happy and my siblings to be happy and my
Mm.
husband to be happy and my children to be happy. And it wasn't really till I learned, like, that's an inside job. Like, you can't make other people happy.
Mm.
And, you know, I really took that so personally. Like, I really wanted to make other people happy, and it just never could happen. And it wasn't until I really learned about the principles that I realized, yeah, I mean, I don't have any control over my own thinking. How am I going to have control over everybody else's thinking?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was huge. That was huge for me. And
Yeah.
to not, you know, I always cared so much about what other people thought of,
Mm. Mm.
especially my family, you know? And so it's such so sometimes, you know, we forget about how we were like before.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'll think back and I'm like, oh my God, like, there's so much more ease and when things like that all fall away. It's
Mm.
incredible how much thinking um, falls away when you understand this. And when that thinking falls away, it's just like a lightness
Mm.
and an enjoyment of life that I don't think I ever
Mm.
could enjoy,
Mm.
you know. And even recently, and I know that we've spoken about this, you know, I'm 58 years old and I've been going through a change of life, and I
Mm.
had a lot of thinking about that. And then
Mm.
just like a week or two ago, it really occurred to me, wow, this is really no different
Mm.
than what I experienced with my illness. You
Mm.
know, I started having way too much thinking about that. And you know,
Yeah.
I stopped worrying about it, and I've been feeling so much better.
Mm.
It's like magic almost.
Mm.
Like whatever we focus on, we make grow.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, our brain always wants to focus on what we don't want instead of what we do want.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And then when we get that insight, which nobody can give us, and I can't give to anybody, I can only point to this direction. And again, I want to just say, this is my story,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not giving anybody advice, and I'm not, because I know what it's like to be ill. So if anybody's watching that's sick, I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do. This is a very personal journey that I had. All I can say is that looking in this direction has been life-changing for me. And all we could ever do is point to this direction. And then the person has to have an insight for themselves and see it for themselves. And that's, you know, and lately I've gone even like one step further to realize that who we are is really all thought created. You know, like this is my story of my human journey, right? But who we truly are is even bigger than that, you know? And when you get a little glimpse of that, that's really big, you know? To understand that we are nature, we are part of one whole thing. You know, we are consciousness, we are the awareness, and everything is coming into us, into our awareness. And that kind of just changes the whole thing again.
Yeah.
And so the story of Essi is like, it's all a story. It's all made up. And that just opens the door to infinite potential of what human being can be. Because when we let go of these beliefs of who we are, then anything is really possible. And I mean, how awesome is that, right?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's just like, then it gets really interesting when you start to see that, doesn't it? Then it's fun. Yeah.
Because anything is possible. We can create anything in our lives. We can be anything in our lives, you know? And for somebody like me who was so scared and so didn't put myself out there at all, and now I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And that's something that I would not have ever even dreamt of as a possibility for myself. You know? And so I'm really passionate about sharing this understanding, especially with young adults.
Yeah.
Everybody, but I just think about my children. They're the beginning of their lives. They have their whole lives ahead of them, hopefully. And you know, understanding this can make such a difference.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of your, the inside out understanding, I guess what you began to see was you began to see through your thoughts and your thinking, and being able to see through that and seeing that for what it was, which was just your own made up thinking. It wasn't that those things didn't happen in your life, and it wasn't that you weren't really ill, and it wasn't that you weren't, you were in extraordinary pain. But your thinking about that, coming across this understanding, really enabled you to see through that thinking. Would that be right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not even so much of what we're thinking, because we have like, I don't know, like 60,000 thoughts a day, and we don't share, we don't even know about. It's really the understanding that we're thinking, you know, that we're thinking, and that thinking happens, and most of it is not under our control. And we have habitual, each individual human experience might have habitual different thinking patterns.
Mm.
When you become aware of that and you catch it, like I've actually been blessed enough to catch that in the
Yeah.
moment,
Mm.
you know? I mean, I remember I had one time I was brushing my teeth and I was witnessing the nonsense that was going on in my head, and it happened to be about my husband at the time.
Yeah.
I stopped in the middle and I just spit out all this toothpaste on it because it was so funny to me
Yeah.
that here
Yeah.
I have a flaw, and I was paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And so blessed enough to see it in the moment,
Yeah.
it really, it's kind of comical, but also huge.
Yeah.
A lot of
Exactly.
it's been looking back,
Yeah.
in retrospect. I can
Mm.
see the kind of thinking that I had,
Mm.
and
Mm.
how now it's just like gone, and it's
Mm.
not anything that I did. There's no
There's
doing.
no
It's like
doing. Mm.
no doing. It's just by understanding this, it's just like it falls away because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense to us to continue, it's like the metaphor of like we're the sky
Yeah.
and the clouds are the thoughts, and they just kind of roll by. And even the other day I thought, yeah, for a while there I was like, ooh, I'm going to ignore those. But even ignoring is
Just doing
of
something. Yeah.
right. Not even ignoring them. It's not beating yourself up for having them. It's just allowing and accepting everything that comes in to this awareness and not resisting it. It's more of an allowing,
Mm.
and there's no doing involved. And that's why I feel like it's the understanding of it
Yeah.
is what's really significant or was significant in my
Mm.
life.
Mm. Mm.
I think it's like an ongoing process where it's
Mm.
endless, it's
Mm.
forever, it's a journey, it's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
Because this is just like I feel like the tip of the iceberg,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and there's probably going to be so much more to see. But even if I didn't see anything else, it's been a huge gift.
Yeah.
And all the wonderful teachers that I've had in the last 5 years have been a huge gift.
Mm.
All the beautiful people that I've met in this community been a wonderful gift.
Mm.
And especially now during this
Mm.
time,
Yeah.
it's been a difficult time for everyone on the planet.
Mm.
Being quarantined and by ourselves and
Mm.
having this community for support
Yeah.
has been really a blessing.
Yeah. It's a real support, isn't it, for times of stress and anxiety and the the unknown of the pandemic, and going through something that we've never been through before, and nobody knows really what's happening or what's going to happen. But actually, we never know, do we, what's going to happen in life? We just live in a sense of that we have some control, really. But, but
It's been really like in our face, showing us that
yeah,
we don't know what's around the corner. We never know. We're never in charge. We're never in control. And that's really hard for some people to accept, you
mm,
know?
yeah,
But
scary.
now it's really showed us. Yeah, it could be
Mm,
scary, but it also could be quite beautiful
yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah,
the virus, but the letting go,
yeah.
the letting
Trusting.
go,
Mm,
yeah, letting go of the illusion that we're in control.
mm,
Also very beautiful, and that you can, no matter what's happening in the world, there's a lot happening in the world right
yes.
now.
Yeah.
No matter what is happening in the world, who we are is well. Who we are is love. Who we are is peace. Who we are is joy. And the only thing that ever takes us away from that is the mechanism of thought
So,
that makes us believe that that's not true and that we believe it.
mm, mm,
Knowing that allows you to stay,
mm,
centered. It allowed me to stay. Listen, I went through, at the beginning of the virus, I
Mm,
went through extreme grief. I missed my children horribly
yeah.
and had not been able to get to them for months and months and being so far away. And I just want to say that's okay too.
Mm,
It's okay to feel everything.
mm,
It's part of the human condition.
yeah.
But it comes and it goes.
Mm,
And then it comes and it goes.
mm,
And we say who we truly are. And we witness it. And when we do that, we can still find our joy and our peace
yeah.
and our love, and even in the worst of circumstances.
Mm.
You know? And that's been really incredible to see.
Isn't
Um,
it wonderful that that's always there? That's always there, in us. We can tap into that at any time, but we forget because we get caught up in our thinking and our busyness and our stress and our anxiety, and yet actually it's always there. If we just allow those thoughts and clouds to pass on through. Oh, thanks so much, Essi. That's been full of so much in there for people. And if people want to find you, where can they sort of get hold of you on your website or?
they can go to my website, which is wellbeingedu.com.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Facebook page by the same name, wellbeingedu.com, or they can email me at essi@wellbeingedu.com.
Great.
And I'm
Thanks so
always
much.
talking to people. I mean, I love talking to people. I love sharing this. I'm happy to give, free consultations to anyone who's
Wow.
wanting to look in this direction.
Yeah. Perhaps particularly around their health or diagnosis or anything really, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Essi. Thanks so much. It's been lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel, for having me on. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know you.
You too. Thank you.